Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to season number 14 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, here for round number 2 of the season here at the Rockingham Speedway, opened up back in 1965. I was mistaken last week when I was doing the interviews where I said ASRC has never been to this track before. I was mistaken on that. They have been here one time back in season number 4. That would have been back in around October of 2021, where Jason Gardner took home the win in the street stock, a substantially lower powered car than the Gen 4 car we are using here tonight. So definitely curious to see if he'll be able to make something work here in this much more difficult car. 22 to 25 degree banking in the corners, so not quite as drastic as Daytona with its 30 and 31 degree banking, but we're also at a track that is pretty much less than half of its length, only 1 mile or 1.6 kilometers in length. In the real world, of course, we are following the 2003 NASCAR schedule. In the real world, this race was won by Dale Jarrett. And look at the qualifying times coming in here. Currently, the fastest time looks like it is going to be a 23.23, which is a little bit slower than the real life fastest qualifying time back in 2000 set by Rusty Wallace with a 23.167. 8-degree track temperature here, though. It's going to be a little bit warm out here on the speedway and 100-lap event here. We're going to have to see how these drivers are going to manage their tires here tonight, because this is going to be a rough one. This is a very slick, very slippery and slidey track here this evening. That said, drivers are making their way down to the starting lineup, so how about we take a look at how things will be shaken out here this evening. Starting out here on the pole today in the number 15 me entry, our current championship points leader after his win at Daytona last week, that's going to be the number 15 of Carl Felver. Starting his outside in the number 10, that's going to be Mr. Nick Fuller in the Octium entry, the driver out of Rochester, New York. Back in third, that's going to be the 29 of Tyler Aspinall in the Giant Eagle entry, followed by the 17 of Daniel Wiles in the Amp Energy entry. Back in fifth, that's going to be one half of the SM Racing Products team. That's the 74 of Jeremy Morrow, followed by the 95 of Mr. David Sluiter in the Full Send Racing entry, followed by the 38 of Brandon Feeney, runner-up in the championship 2 seasons ago in that 38 Liqui Moly entry. He's going to be starting off position number 7. Back in position number 8, it is going to be the 01 of Kevin West in the Trailer Park Dude entry of Canton, Georgia, followed by Will Reichard in the 67 back in 9th, with Mike Moultrie Jr. in the number 3, rounding out the top 10. Back in 11th, that's going to be the 66 of Matt Sisler in the Little Hooper Designs entry, driver out of Oakland, Michigan, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Back in 13th, going to be the 16 of Garrett Streets, the other half of the SM Racing Products crew, also out of Topeka, Kansas, followed by the 93 of League Administrator Mr. Jason Gardner, the driver who took home the win in our first race at this track back in 2021 in the street stock. Back in 15th, that's going to be the 96 of Charles Jettings in the Veteran Television entry. That is the driver out of South Carolina back in 15th. Followed by the 46 of Justin Walters in the Coca-Cola entry. That's going to be the driver out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina back in 16th. 17th going to go back to the 13 of Landon Wood in the Wounded Warriors Project entry, followed by the Dirt TV 27 of Johnny Bell back in 18th. 19th going to go back to one of the Mooselander drivers. That's going to be Michael Sparks in the 42, followed by the unsponsored 78 of Derek Murphy back in 20th. And Joshua Rudolph in the 188 machine, rounding out the tail end of this 21 car field this evening. And it's going to be actually 21 cars here tonight. We have fixed the issue we had with last week's session with drivers not rendering. Green flag up in the air. We are going racing here at Rockingham. Side by side down into turn number 1. Really solid start on both lines here, but it looks like it's going to be the inside line that has a little bit of an advantage so far here for lap number 1. That me entry of Carl Felver off to a little bit of an early lead as we come out of turns 3 and 4 for the first time here at the Rock. Of course, back when this race was run back in the real world, last NASCAR Cup Series race here was in 2004, so just a year after this current iRacing series inspired. This was North Carolina Speedway. It was not Rockingham Speedway yet, and I'll tell you what, this track has earned its title of the Rock. It is very difficult. It's very demanding of these cars. You can already see that they are slipping and sliding all over the place, and we're only 3 laps into the books here. Currently looking down at the battle between Kevin West in the 01, David Sluiter, and Daniel Wiles up here. Drivers starting to single file out here, starting to get a little bit nose to tail. Caution flag out on the speedway for the first time here this evening, and it looks like it's going to be David Sluiter around at the tail end of the field, and oh, that was Michael Sparks involved. First caution flag out on the speedway here on lap number 4. That was even faster than it was back at Daytona. We got our first caution back on lap number 9. That was the only caution back at Daytona. So starting off here tonight on a little bit of a difficult start. So let's take a look back here. Starting with the 95 of David Sluiter, and it looks like he got some help from behind with the 74 of Jeremy Morrow. Brings it to a stop, tries to get it turned around, and oh, there's Michael Sparks. Gonna look back at that. Let's ride on board here with Michael Sparks going down into this incident. One of our Moose Lander drivers out of Calgary, Canada. And bang. Definitely an unfortunate situation to be in. Not the way either of these drivers wanted this race to start off. Let's take one more look down at that. Really, this was just a 2-car incident, and then nowhere really for Sparks to go coming in there. That is going to be what brings out caution flag number 1 here on the speedway. And this is a 100-lap event. We still have a long way left to go here this evening, but we see Michael Sparks down on pit lane. David Sluiter also down here on pit lane. And it looks like Johnny Bell and Jeremy Morrow have also made the call to come down here. Morrow also having damage. Johnny Bell looks like this was actually a scheduled pit stop for the driver of that number 27 machine. Not someone we see out here on the speedway all too often anymore, but every time we do, he's always doing pretty much the exact opposite of whatever the rest of the field is doing when it comes to pit strategy. So this is a driver we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on as we get ready to go racing once again here at the Rockingham. Lights are out on the iRacing.com pace car, so we've got one more lap around the speedway before we get green flag racing once again. Front row still looking like the same that it was before we first started this thing off. Carl Felver and Nick Fuller, your front row. That's going to be Tyler Aspinall, Daniel Wiles back in 3rd and 4th. Mike Moultrie Jr., Kevin West, 5th and 6th. Mike Moultrie got 5 positions in those initial laps here in tonight's event. So far, he is our biggest mover. Actually, no, that's not true. The 188 of Joshua Rudolph back here is our biggest mover so far. He's up +8 right now. But we're going to get ready to go green flag racing here once again this time around. And I'll tell you what, race fans, this might be a little bit of a crazy one. Pace car makes the duck down into the safety of pit lane. It wants nothing to do with this. Well, let's see what these drivers can do here. Once again, green flag up in the air. And a really solid start for Carl Felver. Got on that gas, caught the outside line, sleeping just a little bit. And Tyler Aspinall's looked for a second there like he was going to start to pull up alongside that ton of Nick Fuller, but not quite having the speed to be able to do it. Once again, already drivers are changing lanes, trading paint all over the place just behind him. Apparently looking down at the battle for, looks like, the 5th position. Daniel Wiles and Kevin West in that brightly colored 01 machine. Kevin West, one of your podium finishers last week back at Daytona, along with Carl Felver and Daniel Wiles. All of these drivers up inside the top 6 right now. All drivers making their debuts here with the league pretty much here, if not last week at Daytona, then at the tail end of season number 13, and they have all proved themselves to be forces to be reckoned with, even up against all of these veteran drivers here in the league. Of course, Garrett Street's a previous champion winner back in the 7th position right now. Jason Gardner, of course, has been here since the league has been founded as one of the administrators here. Corey Logan also been racing here since the beginning. Same with Johnny Bell. Michael Sparks also been here for a very long time, and all of them currently are getting stumped by these newcomers here. As we get ready to cross the line, have 10 laps in the books. 100 laps the distance here this evening. A little bit more like a traditional ASRC Oval Series race. Of course, that is not the intention here, though. As we see a dive down to the inside for the race lead, Mike Moultrie Jr. going to make the move on Carl Felber down on the bottom of the racetrack, and it's 2x2 just behind as well as Tyler Aspinall and Nick Fuller duked it out as well. Drivers starting to make that bottom line get a little bit more traction. It's still really loose down there, a little bit wiggly. Mike Moultrie, big slide up to the outside line in that number 3 machine. Everyone is really trying to use every little inch of racing surface they have here, and we're about to have a caution flag out on the speedway, or maybe not. Green flag stays up in the air. Tyler Aspinall keeps it pointed in the right direction. He's going to lose a whole bunch of positions here in that 29 machine. He's already back outside the top 10, outside the top 11 now. Let's see if we can't take a real quick look back at that right quick. Still under the green flag, but Tyler Aspinall out on the outside line. Drifts up just a little bit coming out the corner. Nope, it's a little bit further back than we meant for it to be. This should, yep, just gets a little bit loose out of turn number 2. Hard impact in the outside wall, but he keeps it pointed in the right direction miraculously. No caution flag to fly, but I imagine we're going to see that driver have to come down pit lane here. Currently now back in the 13th position for that 29, and it looks like he's slowing it down. It looks like Tyler Aspinall will be making the call to come down pit lane here. Side by side, back up at the front between Mike Moultrie Jr. and Carl Felber, duking it out for the race lead. Felber down on the bottom in the knee entry, of course, reference to the movie Talladega Nights. Mike Moultrie Jr. on the high line in the Good Wrench Service number 3. And both these drivers, despite battling out, are starting to pull away from the rest of the field here a little bit. We've seen drivers have some sketchy moments in turn 2 here, so especially on that outside line, so I'm a little bit scared for Mike Moultrie Jr. here. I mean, he's up plus 9 positions right now, having a really solid run. So hopefully we won't see any more drivers having a little bit of catastrophic events in turn number 2 on the high line like we just saw with Tyler Aspinall. But who knows what might happen. Last week back at Daytona, Moultrie brought it home back in the 10th position. So leading laps right now, definitely a really solid place to be in for that number 3 machine, especially since there are bonus points up for grabs for laps led. Also bonus points up for grabs, as it's always been in every ASRC series, regardless of if it is oval competition or not. Bonus points up for grabs for having a clean, incident-free race. Evidently, a couple of drivers already losing their eligibility for those bonus points, so who knows how these championships will play out. We still got a long season left to go here this evening. A little bit further back, there's some battles going on near the tail end of the field. This is between the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan battling it out with the 13 of Landon Wood. Landon making their debut start here this evening, just behind Joshua Rudolph in the 188. I believe Joshua Rudolph is also making their debut start with the league here, back in the 15th position. Getting around Corey Logan without too much difficulty, and nearly contact there between Rudolph and Wood. And also here involved in this battle, we see none other than Mr. Johnny Bell. Was having a decent race last week at Daytona, but might have potentially had a mechanical issue or some sort of technical issues. He just kind of drove straight into the wall and immediately called the tow truck before the caution flag could fly. So great to see Bell back out here on the speedway. Not entirely sure what happened to him last week. Currently running back in the 16th position. And you got to remember, Johnny Bell has already pit here tonight. He is the only driver this evening that has made a scheduled pit stop already in that number 27 machine. And I'd imagine the game plan now is to try and do some really, really heavy fuel saving and see where it gets him in the long run of this thing. Right now, currently running back in 15th, about a second and a half back from the 188 of Joshua Rudolph. Back up at the front, we are duking it out for fourth on back, all in a little bit of a cluster here. Currently looking down at the 10 of Nick Fuller side by side with the 66 of Matt Sisler. Garrett Street's also involved in this battle. And just up ahead, also Daniel Wow is having a little bit of a gap here. But all nose to tail, all less than a car length of distance from each other. And it's crazy to think we're only 22 laps in the books. These drivers are clicking off laps like crazy, but at least it feels like they are. But we're still in the early goings of these things. And I would imagine these drivers are just about as exhausted as I am. This has been a crazy start to the race so far here at Rockingham. Always one half good track. Definitely sad to see it go. Of course, it does still exist in the real world, but like I said, the NASCAR Cup Series has not raced here since 2004. We did have the whole effort to bring back the North Wilkesboro Speedway recently. Rockingham is a track that I really hope is on the list of speedways they intend to bring back as well. Side by side, just in front of these two, that is Sisler and Wiles duking it out. Sisler down on the bottom. He's going to fall back a little bit here. Going all the way down to the line on corner entry. Everyone else keeping it up just a little bit as we see a little bit of technical difficulties for the 16 of Garrett Street. A little bit of connection problems, as tends to be the place here on the iRacing.com platform. Of course, you can't really have mechanical failures here in the simulated world, but you can have connection issues, computer issues, and all of those kind of fill in the gaps where you might run into a mechanical issue in a real-life racing car. That said, things are looking a-okay for that number 16 right now. I say that he has another little bit of a connection loss, but as long as they're keeping it pointed in the right direction, that's half the battle. We'll just have to keep an eye on that 16, make sure everything stays a-okay with him, and he should be good to go for the rest of this event. Taking a look at the things up at the front of the field, Mike Moultrie Jr. leads the way over Carl Felver. Caution flag is out on the speedway, though. And it looks like trouble might be for Corey Logan, that 24. Sure enough, yes, it will. That CZ Robotics is turned around down in turn number 2. Now, our folks in the truck right now are saying that this was a single car incident, but it looks like there is rear end damage to that number 24. So it looks like a drive around Noonan, Georgia might have gotten a little bit of help there. Let's look back, see if we can't see what the deal is. Currently side by side with Johnny Bell when this incident came out, going down into turns 1 and 2. And just drifted up a little bit, and not a whole lot either driver could do there. And there's the 13 hard into the side of the 24. That was Landon Wood involved in that. Let's take another look back here, try and get a little bit of a better view of things, of that incident between the 24 and the 27. These two drivers were running back in the 15th and 16th spots, it looks like, when this caution flag came out. Massive impact to the side of that 24 machine, but I want to say that Landon Wood might have gotten more damage from that than Corey did. Let's take a look back here. Right on board with Landon Wood, see what all went down from their point of view going into that incident. Brings it way up. There's the issue. That scrape against the outside wall kind of just messed up the trajectory of the car and unfortunately sent it right directly into the incident. We got drivers down on pit lane though, and it actually looks like pretty much everyone is on pit lane, with the exception of none other than Johnny Bell, the driver who pit under our first yellow all the way back on lap number 4. He is elected to stay out, and Johnny Bell will be scored as our new race leader when we come to take the green again. That 24 of Corey Logan going to be coming down pit lane. It looks like that incident knocked Corey a lap down, so they had to wait an extra lap before they can come and do their stop. But what is important here is that they are rolling down to their stop at all. and not having to take the tow truck. That alone is a very good sign for the success rate of this number 24 machine. They are not out of this race yet. As they come to a rest in their pit stall, I would imagine we are going to see them be stuck down there for a little bit. Len Wood already over a minute and a half down in his pit box in that number 13 machine. And, oh, okay. False alarm. Just a little bit of connection issues for a second. I thought Landon Wood was about to pack it up and send it back to the race hauler, but no. Landon Wood making the way back out onto the speedway. It looks like they are currently being scored 2 laps down currently in that number 13 machine. And that is the Wounded Warriors Project number 13 for Landon Wood. Currently running back in the 18th position right now. So lights still on the iRacing.com pace car. Should be getting the one to go call this time by, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to see our front row be none other than Johnny Bell and Mike Moultrie Jr. Johnny being the only driver to make the call to stay out here this evening. And looking around the field, we have Garrett Streets and Brandon Feeney both with 8-second stops. So that tells me they probably only took fuel. Everyone else, though, 14 to 15 seconds, which means every car on this speedway, with the exception of Johnny Bell at the very front of the field, Garrett Streets and Brandon Feeney back in 4th and 5th, have taken tires. And I'll tell you what, I respect the tenacity, I respect the grind. I'm a little bit nervous to see how differing tire strategies are going to affect things when we come to take the green flag here, everyone. So buckle your seatbelts, get nice and comfortable in your chair. Things might be about to get a little bit hectic when we take this green flag. Going to be 32 laps completed when we go green flag racing once again. Coming out of turn number 4, pace car makes the dive down to pit lane. As usual, it wants nothing to do with what's about to unfold here. Green flag up in the air. And not a bad start for Johnny Bell, but you can see the difference in tires as Mike Moultrie Jr. immediately sails by on the outside line, and it looks like Carl Felver is closing that distance mighty darn quickly as well here, especially in cornering. The corner speed difference is just insane between the two of them, but Johnny's just going to commit to the bit. I would imagine he's going to stay out as long as he can possibly can here and then try and make a mad dash to the finish and make all of that ground back on new tires, probably in the 60 to 80 lap range. A little bit further back, this is the battle between Kevin Lest and Garrett Streets here. West down the bottom in the 01 Trailer Park Dude TikTok entry. Garrett Streets up high in the SM Racing Products number 16. Daniel Wiles getting involved in this battle as well. He's down the low line in the Amp Energy 17 machine. Feeney up here as well, duking it out with, looks like Matt Sisler in the 66. Nick Fuller up here as well. All these drivers have lost a couple of positions from where they qualified, but still a long way left to go here in tonight's event. Still plenty of opportunities to make those spots back, and I would not be surprised if we end up seeing another caution or two here this evening, just with how things have been here so far in tonight's event, just with how things are here at Rockingham Speedway as a whole. This is always a little bit of a difficult track to make things work at. Side by side further back, that's Jeremy Morrow, Jason Gardner side by side here, battling it out for the 12th position. Two drivers we haven't been able to talk about all that much. Jeremy Morrow was involved in one of those incidents earlier, so it's good to see that 74 machine looks like it is fully repaired and up to racing standards here. A little bit sketchy there side by side with Jason Gardner, almost drifting up into him. Gets on the parachute, slows it down a little bit, keeps it pointed in the right direction. Lives to drive another lap, at least for the time being. Further up here, everyone nose to tail still. It could go either way here for any of these drivers. All very equally matched in pace. Last time by, all in the 23 8-second range. As we see Matt Sisler pull down to the very bottom of the track. Not quite having the momentum to get around Streets, though. That seems to just be a little bit of a trend here, is that bottom line has just not really gotten the momentum it's needed to get a run. And I say that Garrett Streets has a little bit of a scrape against the outside wall. That's going to cost him a good couple of positions there. At least 3, it might be 4 here as Charles Jennings starts to come into the mix in that number 96 machine. That's another driver we really haven't had the opportunity to talk about all that much here this evening. Coming into tonight's event, back in the 15th position in the Veterans TV entry. Driver out of South Carolina here this evening. Going back in the 9th position, building up a little bit of a gap over Mr. Brandon Feeney in that number 38 machine. He has fallen back just a tad bit. Of course, Feeney, like Streets, one of the only drivers that did not take tires under that last pit stop. And it looks like it is starting to bite him here just a little bit. The other driver that didn't take tires was just a little bit further ahead, that number 16 of Garrett Streets. As you see Corey Logan coming back up onto the track there in that 24. Corey currently being scored, looks like 2 laps down. Tyler Aspinall 1 lap down. Of course, Lucky Dogs are enabled, so should the caution flag fly, Aspinall would be put back on the lead lap here. Looking at the lap times last time by, Garrett Streets is actually doing pretty solid on his tires right now in that 16 machine. He was a little bit faster than Charles Jennings. As the timing and scoring updates crossing the line again, it's in the thousandths of a second range, the difference between Streets and Jennings right now. So Streets is managing his tires really well. Alternatively, Feeney last time by about 0.3 of a second slower than the cars around him. And Johnny Bell all the way back in 13th right now. Johnny is about half a second off of the cars around him right now. So those cars that didn't take tires are finding themselves in very difficult situations right now. But if we were to keep this thing rolling green, these drivers could put some tires on very late in the race and maybe make some potential ground back here, especially if we end up getting a late race caution. Things will really work out for them. A little bit further up in the field, Matt Sisler, Will Reichard duking it out in the 66 and 67 machines respectively. They were side by side just a second ago, but Reichard electing to fall back just a little bit. Now about 0.2 of a second separating the two of them, battling for the final position in the top 5. And I'll tell you what, these drivers have started to fall away from the race lead right now. Carl Felver leading by 0.6 of a second. This is going to be another 0.6 or so back to Kevin West. Then another 2 seconds back to the driver in 4th. But things have gotten really spread out up here in the top 5. There's still a little bit of a hornet's nest further back in the field as there's almost contact there between Streets and Charles Jennings. Hang on to it there, guys. Side by side now for Feeney and Morrow for 11th, as it looks like Corey Logan has elected to come back down to pit lane, and Landon Wood making their way back out onto the speedway. So that's 2 drivers able to come back out on the track. Oh, hang on to it, Feeney. That was incredibly close, nearly into the outside wall there, but as far as I could tell, he kept it off of there. Maybe only enough room to slip a piece of paper between his car and the wall, but sure enough, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do here at Rockingham, and ripping the outside wall can sometimes be just the place to be. Feeney not going anywhere near as far up this time around, as nearly contact between himself and Morrow right there. Feeney kind of finding himself sandwiched in between 2 teammates here. Of course, Feeney and Morrow, or no, excuse me, Streets and Morrow are the S&M of the SM Racing Products team. Of course, the title sponsor here of the league. Feeney getting to the outside wall. Hang on to it, Feeney. That was a little bit hairy there, but he's even it pointing in the right direction. Of course, the 2 SM Racing Products drivers nose to tail with each other. We've seen them work together at Daytona. It looks like they're trying to work together at least a little bit here, getting around that 38 of Brandon Feeney. Of course, these are the 2 drivers who made the title sponsor here of the league, SM Racing Products. 2 of them looking on the market for some sim racing gear. Weren't quite happy with what their options were for making a purchase on it. So I decided, you know what? Why not make it ourselves? And that is exactly what the two of them have started doing. And while it's not for the first time here in league history, of course, SM Racing Products has given out prizes to the champions in the past, but here for this overall 36, oh, be careful. That was sketchy. Almost contact there between the two SM Racing Products teammates. But for the champion and the two runner-ups, not of each 12-week subseason here, but of the overall 36-week Gen 4 NASCAR season, the... Uh-oh. Oh, hang on to it. We might just be about to see a caution. No, they're pointed in the right direction again. I am thoroughly impressed by these drivers' ability to save the car. That was crazy. Let's take one more look back at this right quick, get another view of just what happened to Mr. Jeremy Morrow there. That was a big wiggle out of the 74, and that nearly ended up in disaster very quickly for the two of them. Nearly a little bit of contact coming out of turn number 2, then they go down into 3 and 4. Generally A-okay in there. Then I believe it's when we go into 1 and 2 again is where it got sketchy. Going down on the apron. Comes back on the track and drifts up. There's the contact. Surprise. There's Jason Gardner. And he manages to keep it pointed in the right direction here. No caution flag will fly. But that will cost Jeremy Morrow a couple of positions here. Further up in the front, side by side between Mike Moultrie Jr. and Kevin West. Both of these drivers having really solid runs in the championship so far here this season. Still a long way left to go, but they've got some really good momentum to be playing with. And that brings us back to what I was trying to mention before we had all that drama come out. The overall champion of the 36-week Gen 4 NASCAR season we're doing here will be getting a $150 gift card to the SM Racing Products website, where they can get a little bit of sim racing gear of their own. Then the runner-up getting a 10% discount, and the third place finisher in the championship getting a 5% discount to the SM Racing Products website. So there will be some tangible prizes, more than just bragging rights, for these drivers here. Which again, it's not the first time that SM Racing Products has done this for us. They've been really great coming out here with the league and supporting us. But it's always exciting to have a little bit of more drama on the line, as Kevin West has a big impact in the outside wall on that 01 machine. Loses a ton of ground to Mike Moultrie here. Shockingly, it doesn't look like there's really any damage on the side of that number 01 machine, but definitely a scary sight to see here. Getting into the closing chapters of this race, going to be 59 laps completed next time by. Little bit over 40 to go here at Rockingham. The halfway point has been crossed. It's looking like right now Johnny Bell's the last car on the lead lap. He is the only driver that has not pit in any sort of recent memory. The last time Johnny Bell has pit was back on lap 5 under the very first caution flag here this evening. So he, more than anyone else, is trying to do some massive saving here to make the strategy work out. But I don't think it's going to work, because right behind there is Carl Felver getting around that 13. That's a lap car of Landon Wood. Next, going to be putting Johnny Bell a lap down as well in that number 15 machine. And since we haven't done a little bit of it here tonight, how about we ride on board with that number 15 machine, get a little bit of enjoyment of the onboard sounds of these Gen 4 racing machines. See down there, Carl Felver just about to put Joshua Rudolph down a lap in that 188 machine. That will be leaving Jeremy Morrow as the last car on the lead lap in the SM Racing Products number 74 back in 11th. I've been a little bit hard to see there with the onboard shot, but Johnny Bell has finally made his call to come down onto pit lane. Looks like the strategy was to just stay out until he was at risk of being put a lap down, and that's finally when he decided to make his pit stop. Only concern right now is Johnny Bell is still on pit lane. That is substantially longer than a scheduled stop should be. And the timer has stopped ticking for Johnny Bell's pit stop. He might have packed it up and sent it back to pit lane, or sent it back onto the hauler here. Currently looking down at Will Reichard making a green flag pit stop here, a little bit off sequence with everyone else. This is his second stop here this evening. And it looks like the tires and fuel will be the call for the Delta Airlines number 67. That will be putting him down a lap and putting him on the same lap as Rudolph Murphy and Aspinall. So a couple of different lucky dog candidates here. Right now it's looking like Rudolph would be the one to get it should the caution flag fly, but of course that is a very monumental what if. And there's also always the question of, will Rudolph be involved? Because of course if you are involved in the caution, then you will lose your eligibility for that lucky dog position. A little bit side by side back there as the SM Racing Products teammates pass each other. Jeremy Morrow now up in the 9th. And you gotta remember, Jeremy Morrow was involved in an incident in the early goings of tonight's event, and now he's running up inside the top 10. So all in all, really a solid evening put together for that number 74. Coming into tonight's event, Morrow is being scored back in the 14th position in the championship standings, so another top 10 would be doing him some favors. Just behind, though, that's his teammate of Garrett Streets, and there are the race leaders as well creeping up behind the two of them. Carl Felver and Kevin West closing the distance mighty quickly here. It's that 15 and the blue, purple, and black 01. These are your two race leaders coming up on a substantial amount of lap traffic here, and we're going to try and send it 3 wide with the lap car. Not quite, though. Carl Felver is going to make the call to come down pit lane. That will have Kevin West as your new race leader. Let's see what the call is for this number 15 when it comes down to his pit strategy here. Of course, Carl took home the checkered flag at Daytona last week. He's trying to go 2 in a row here this evening. And we'll just have to see, did he make the right call here on this stop? A couple of other drivers now making the call to come down pit lane as well. Charles Jettings, Jason Gardner, Kevin West, Mike Moultrie Jr. all coming down this time by. Matt Sisler also making the call to come in. Daniel Weil is still staying out. Nick Fuller still staying out. It's going to be tires and fuel for the number 15, and I imagine that's what we're going to see pretty much all the way around the field when they make their stops here. Sure enough, we have gotten word that Johnny Bell has retired from tonight's event, so the absolute best that he can finish here tonight is in the 17th position, potentially 18th, depending on how many laps Landon Wood can get back on him. Currently being scored 19 laps down, which is about 7 back from Johnny Bell. So as long as Wood stays out for the rest of this race, he will be overtaking that retired number 27 machine. More drivers now making their stops. Nick Fuller comes down, Daniel Wiles comes down, Mike Moultrie Jr. coming down as well. That will have Jeremy Morrow theoretically cycling out to the race lead here. Not quite. Depends on if Morrow decides to stay out or pit again. Of course, this pit cycle is a really good opportunity for drivers to pick up laps led bonus points, because you only have to lead a single lap to get that bonus point handed to you. And in a 21 car field, sometimes these pit cycles are the only opportunity you're going to get to do that. And sure enough, Morrow's going to stay out another lap. He will be picking up a bonus point for having a lap led here this evening. Currently just behind, a little bit of a battle going on between Feeney and Charles Jettings. These two drivers are duking it out for the lucky dog position right now. If the caution flag were to fly, it would be going to Brandon Feeney for the time being. Actually, no, it would be going to Charles Jettings for the time being. It will go to Feeney, should Feeney be able to overtake that number 96 machine. Both of them going around our current race leader of Jeremy Morrow, because of course they are all on new tires. Morrow is not. And that leaves just two drivers left that pit back on lap 29. That is Morrow and Streets, the two SM Racing Products teammates. Would you believe it? They're on the same strategy. But now we see Jeremy Morrow make his stop. Not Garrett Streets, though. Garrett Streets is going to elect to stay out. He's probably going to try and pick up a lap-led bonus point as well, but he's not going to be able to do it because Kevin West is going to get around him. Kevin West now goes back to the race lead. Carl Felver is about a second, closer to 2 seconds behind right now. With 21 to go, it is going to be really difficult for Felver to close that gap up. Last time by, technical lap times between West and Felver. And of course, we do still have some drivers coming down onto pit lane. Garrett Streets down there. Joshua Rudolph is coming down, as well as Derek Murphy. Morrow's still down in his pit box making a stop. He's been in there for close to 30 seconds now, so it looks like Morrow might be getting damage repaired on that 74 along with his scheduled stop. So that's going to be putting a big wrench in the operation of that 74 machine. Garrett Streets on his way back out, though. That is a regular pit stop for the 16 machine. And all the way back on the other end of the speedway, this is the battle for third from our race leader. Nearly a half of a speedway of difference between these drivers from first to third. Side by side as these two duke it out for the final podium position. They still got 18 laps to go, though. And there's a lap car. That's the 24 of Corey Logan going to keep it down on the bottom. Reichard and Wiles both going around on the high line. That is going to separate the two of them just a little bit here as they go down into 1 and 2. Now about 0.3 of a second apart, but Wiles is closing that gap up. Last time by, it's not really fair to look at it with that lap car involved, but 24-25 for Will Reichard, 24-41 for Daniel Wiles. Let's see how it shakes up crossing the line here in clean air. $23.91 for Wiles, 24.13 for Reichard. So Wiles does have a little bit of speed to play with, and that's not a big surprise considering he pulled up alongside that 67, and Reichard's into the outside wall. And that is going to cost him a bit of ground here. He doesn't have to worry about that car just behind. That is Jeremy Morrow, who is a lap down here. So no pressure out the back. Reichard just has to think about getting back up to that 17 of Daniel Wiles, and right now Wiles is pulling away from Reichard about a tenth every couple of seconds here. He's got up to 0.8 of a second now as we come across the line, and immediately just like that bring it up to 9 seconds or 9/10, and now a full second back. Now we have Matt Sisler starting to close in on that 67 machine as they both battle around that lap car of Jeremy Morrow. Once again, we see both drivers having to take the high line, and we once again see Reichard looking like he's getting a little bit loose in the center of the corner through 3 and 4. Sisler holding back just a little bit there. Last time by, 24.53 for Reichard. Oh, trouble! I don't know how the caution flag is not out. That was quite the incident, but somehow everyone's got their cars pointed back in the right direction with 12 laps left to go. Let's take a real quick look back at what's going on here. Looks like the incident started with the 78 of Derek Murphy, who is currently being scored 6 laps down, it looks like. Derek Murphy has a bit of a self-spin, tries to recover, nearly manages to in that 78, backs it up just a little bit, gets it rolling. And no, the incident with with Reichard was entirely separate, so we need to take another look back right quick and figure out what happened there. And it looks like maybe something with Jeremy Morrow. Let's take another look back here and put it on Reichard's perspective here, try and get an understanding of what all went down as we get ready to go. 10 to go here under the green flag. Reichard goes way up high, gets a little bit loose, comes back down. Oops, there's the 74, Jeremy Morrow, also getting loose. But despite all the drama, we keep it green. There we go. Had a little bit of audio difficulties there, but with 5 laps left to go, Kevin West is our race leader. Carl Felber 4/10 of a second back with 4 laps left to go here at Rockingham Speedway. So far, so good all around the field. We had that little bit of a scare earlier with Derek Murphy, but no caution flag flew, and it looks like we are going to be finishing this race under green. That time by as we cross the line. 24.32 for Kevin West, 24.37 for Carl Welber, but it doesn't matter because Kevin West hard into the outside wall. That is going to give Felber a little bit of room to work with here with 3 to go. But the gap, despite that scrape against the outside wall, the gap is building here just a little bit between West and Felber. 2 to go from the flagman. 2 more laps around this mile-long circuit. There is a lap car just ahead. That is the 13 of Landon Wood up there. And as the white flag flies this time by, it's all going to come down to how things work out with this lap car. West going to go up high. Felber goes high as well, but scrapes against the outside wall. Right when he was starting to close the gap, he loses it again. And it looks like it could go either way here. Carl Felber just closed a full 10th of a second, but it's not going to be enough. Kevin West takes home the win at Rockingham. Running green for the entire second half of the race, and it still came down to less than half of a second between our 2 leading drivers. Kevin West, Carl Felber, and Daniel Wiles rounds out the podium here this evening. Kevin West, of course, one of the podium finishers last week at Daytona, just came up a little bit short But tonight, he manages to get the edge over Carl Felver. Actually, shockingly, it just occurred to me looking down the timing and scoring list. This is the same podium as we had last week at Daytona, just in a little bit of a different order. Last week it was Carl Felver, Daniel Wiles, Kevin West. Tonight it's Kevin West, Carl Felver, Daniel Wiles, your top three here this evening. We're going to be talking to the three same drivers for our interviews here in just a moment as Kevin West brings it on down to pit lane. Don't go anywhere, race fans. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top three finishers. All right, race fans, welcome back to Rockingham. Welcome back to season 14 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. 100 miles of competition in the books here this evening. And tonight, it's going to be Mr. Kevin West taking home the checkered flag. Kevin, how are you feeling here this evening?
Man, we're feeling like $1,000,000 tonight, baby.
Yes, sir. Certainly a heck of a race you had out there. Of course, finished on the podium last week at Daytona, just a couple of hundredths of a second short. But tonight, gonna improve by a whole 7 positions here and take home the checkered flag. What'd you need to do to get it done here?
Well, we didn't get the greatest qualifying run, so we just wanted to work our way forward there and not use the tires up, not use the car up. Um, got a caution with 20 something laps in or so. Put four tires on it, came out, restarted six. Then it was kind of the same thing, just try to move forward without tearing the tires up, tearing the car up. But I didn't do too great of a job at keeping the fender straight on it. I hit the wall three or four times there, but it didn't hurt the car too bad, I guess. And yeah, on that last stop, I knew we didn't have to take a full tank of fuel, so I decided to put two tires on it and try to gain some track position here on Carl, and it worked out, man. I'm real happy with that.
Yes, sir. You certainly managed to play it out in your favor. And it seemed like there could have been a couple of times where there was a little bit of a wrench in it. In the last 25 laps, there were two different pretty big incidents out on the track that somehow didn't pull out a caution. Do you think if there was a late race caution, if that would have messed up your strategy at all?
It could have. My car was a little hurt, so those guys might have had a little bit more grip on the restart. So yeah, it could have got ugly for me. So I'm glad it stayed green there.
Fair enough. Certainly a heck of a run here for you tonight. Next week, gonna be bringing it on over to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Do you think that's a track where you can continue your streak of podium finishes?
To be honest with you, I'm expecting a win. So we'll go out there to Las Vegas next week and put a whooping on them.
Fair enough. I like the confidence. That said, I won't keep you here all night. I know you got practicing and celebrating to do for taking home a win here this evening. But before you head out, the microphone's all yours. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
I want to thank all of my mobile homies that are watching the stream here on TikTok. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to my wife. She supports me 100%. Trailer Park Dudette. Um, my family likes to watch from time to time, so I'll shoot them over the stream link and they'll check it out tonight. So, yeah, that's all.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on taking home the win, and I look forward to seeing what you're able to do at Las Vegas next week.
All right, we'll see you next week.
And finishing back in position number 2, Mr. Carl Felver, you took home the win last week, just a little bit shy here tonight. How are you feeling this evening?
Uh, Feeling all right, I guess. Wish we could have been one better, but we'll take a second and move on out of there. It's a tough track, a lot of bumps, and you gotta be really patient, really consistent.
Yeah, definitely had some really sketchy moments for a lot of drivers here this evening, but you still managed to walk away with another podium finish. What do you think it might have had to have gone different for you to be walking away with that checkered flag here tonight?
I just needed some lap cars there at the end when I was trying to run Kevin down at the end to just realize the situation and give me some space instead of race me side by side. But I get it, they're racing as well, so it is what it is, and we'll move on. We'll take the second place.
Fair enough. You reckon if we did have the caution flag fly on that late race incident, do you think that might have put you in a good position to be taking it home?
Uh it's tough to say. I guess it would depend on how late it was. We would have had, six laps to go, something like that. I think it would have helped us out. But if it had been something similar to the green white checkered, I think the jump would have been too tough to overcome. So I don't think it would have changed a whole lot, maybe.
Fair enough. Still bringing home a podium here tonight. I don't know the exact numbers yet, but I think you should still be in the lead of the championship heading into Las Vegas next week. Do you think that's a track where you're going to be keeping the hold of it?
Las Vegas is probably my least favorite NASCAR track on the sim. For some reason, that place I don't get along there. So we'll try to bring on the top 5 next week and see what we can come up with.
Fair enough. We got the drop weeks, and you never know. I've seen drivers say they absolutely detest the next track on the schedule, and then they just walk away with another podium. I'm not going to
Hey,
try and jinx it, but
we'll
you never
take it.
know.
We'll take it.
Fair enough. Well, for now, Mr. Felver, I know you got some practicing to do before Las Vegas to try and make it a little bit more bearable. But for now, the microphone's all yours. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
Definitely want to thank you for broadcasting and all the people that put the league on. It's a lot of fun for the couple weeks I've been here. So really enjoy it. Thanks to all you guys, and then thanks to anyone that helps me throughout the week with racing on here. Not even necessarily practice for this, but just people to race with and just have fun on here.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on another podium here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you at Las Vegas next week.
Same to you. Thank you.
And finishing back in position number 3, rounding out the same podium that we had last week at Daytona, it's none other than Mr. Daniel Wiles. How are you feeling here this evening?
Feeling good, man. We stole a podium right there, but I'm feeling good.
Hey, sometimes stealing it is exactly how you have to make it happen. Did you come into tonight's event thinking that you would be able to walk away with a second podium finish?
I felt comfortable with the track because me and my teammate Michael have ran this track with these cars in a previous league before, and we've ran very well. So I was pretty confident in it. The one practice session I did host, my track temp was like 113. So I'm glad that the hosted session for us was not like that. It was down under 100, so it actually made it a lot better.
Fair enough. Yeah, I believe when y'all took the green flag, the track temp was only around 80-ish, so that wasn't too terrible. That
No.
said, what do you think you might have had to have had go differently here tonight for you to be taking home your first checkered flag?
I don't know. The two guys up front, they were pretty pretty fast. My teammate Michael, he was hanging with them. I think that was going to be a good finish between them, but I think he got caught speeding by like 1 mile an hour on that green flag pit stop. That's how we were able to roll into second. So I feel bad for him, or roll into third. But I don't think I had anything for those guys. I think we finished kind of right where we were going to be throughout the whole run. So I'm happy with it. A podium, clean race, should be getting bonus points for 0X's. So we're good.
Good deal. Certainly a heck of a run for you here tonight. Next week, Las Vegas. How are you feeling about it?
I'm pretty confident with it. I'm good at those intermediate 1.5 mile tracks, especially if we get a long green flag run. I always have long run speed. I've always struggled with short run speed, so the more we can get a long run, the better I am. So we'll put in a lot of practice in over the next week, and yeah, we'll be ready.
Good deal. That sounds like a pretty solid plan to me. Before I let you head out for the evening and start getting ready for it, who do you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
Well, I got to thank my teammates that were with us: Michael, Tyler, Nick, Charles, and Landon. You up in the booth for always a great broadcast. The admins that put this on. I was really surprised to see 21 cars out here tonight. I really was, but I'm so glad there was a good field. AMR Paintworks for all of our paints for America Racing, and yeah, my wife and kids that support this habit I have, and yeah, that's about it.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Have a run for you here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you at Las Vegas next week.
All right, man. See you next week.
You heard it here first, race fans. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Kevin West, Carl Felver, Daniel Wiles. Of course, those weren't your only 3 drivers here in the race here this evening. So how about we take a quick look down, see how things shook up for the rest of the field. Of course, these are unofficial race results. These could potentially change. I don't expect them to, in my professional opinion. I thought that was a pretty clean race. But just always gotta remind people that these are tentative. But right now we have is Kevin West, Carl Felver, Daniel Wiles, your top 3 here this evening. Nick Fuller in the 10 machine is going to be back and forth with Matt Sisler in the 66, rounding out your top 5. Charles Jeddins in the number 96, going to be bringing it home on 6th, followed by Will Reichard in the 67, back in 7th. Brandon Feeney bringing home a top 10, back in the 8th position, followed by Jason Gardner and Mike Moultrie Jr. That's going to be Garrett Streets back in 11th, Tyler Aspinall in 12th, Derek Murphy bringing it home back in 13th, and Joshua Rudolph in 14th, Corey Logan rounding out the top 15 here this evening. 16th going to go back to the 74 of Jeremy Morrow, followed by the 13 of Landon Wood, making their debut start here tonight in the 13 machine. Going to be bringing it home back in 17th. Johnny Bell in the 27, going to be bringing it home back in 18th, followed by Michael Sparks in the 42. David Sluiter back in the 95, going to be rounding out 20th here tonight, with Justin Walters in the 46 back at the very tail end of the field. That said, that's just about all we got here from the Rockingham Speedway. One heck of a race put on by these Oval Series drivers. Next week, going to be heading to a little bit of a larger track than this one, heading on over to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. 67 laps on the docket for that one, going to be about 100 miles. So it's going to be another fun one. And of course, that is same day, same time, Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. For those of you looking to join the league, that will be practice opening at 9 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to get into the session and join the Discord server. It's a heck of a time here in the ASRC Oval Series, and we're always looking for new drivers. But for now, race fans, thank you all for tuning in here this evening. It has been one heck of a show here tonight, and I appreciate all of y'all.